Hey now, how is everybody doing? Welcome to Red Alert Diaries Live with Tanya E. Hood. If you saw this morning's episode, then you got the chance to meet my husband. Eric and I decided to join you to share a little bit of information about how we got started in the beginning. Because lots of times when you go through the traumatic experiences like we did, because both of us are in new marriages to each other, going through a divorce often makes you think that you're not going to be able to do this again. At least that was my thought. Now, if you listen to this morning's episode, then you know what Eric thought. And he is busy this evening, so he could not join me for this live because he's off doing the coaching thing, the mental conditioning thing that he typically does. But today I wanted to still give you some insight, share with you some other elements so that we can extend the conversation. Because when you are working on what do I do next? How do I function next? What does my life look like? You're sitting on the foundation of your belief system. And if your belief system, the BS that you tell yourself, is not grounded in a position that will support you, help you do better, be better so that you can have better, you'll miss out on some things. Because I almost missed out on living the life that I have now. You see, in the aftermath of my divorce, I struggled to try to decide that I was lovable, I was worthy. There were basics about myself that I no longer believed. So the BS I told myself was nobody's going to want you as a single mother with two kids. Nobody's going to want you because you're so marred in debt from the chaos of your divorce. Nobody's going to want you was the lie that my BS told me. But here's the thing, we can change our basic beliefs to support us moving forward. Because before all of the chaos happened, I had a different belief system. I believed that Tanya was amazing. I believed that Tanya was great. I believed that I could do some things I never even saw take place. What happened? If you find yourself in a position where you no longer believe what you used to believe, the things that make you great, the things that make you exceptional, the things that still reside in your soul. You see, I had to remember. I had to remember that before the world told me I was not, I visualized being amazing. Before the world told me I was not, I visualized being excellent. I knew before all of the chaos showed up that I was lovable, that I was caring, I was supportive, and that I was designed to be a wife. Now, that is not always a thought that some people have, but for me, when I chose to get married at 21, I knew at 21 I was supposed to do this because I'm one woman built for one man. And this is the journey that I intended to take until death do us part. What I did not understand is that death happens in two ways. It happens on a spiritual level and it happens on a physical level. And for a lot of us walking through the chaos of divorce, we are walking through the spiritual elements of death of that relationship because my covenant got broken. And if you find yourself in a position where your covenant is broken, you walk through a spiritual death. And that spiritual death takes more than just that marriage. It takes your confidence. It takes your self worth. It takes the elements of your being that you knew to be true about you. And you will have to recalibrate your BS to get through it. So let's talk about that for a few moments. A few things that we have to do is go back to basics. What is the foundation that you sit on as your values? Because our values drive our behavior. And too many of us are paying attention to the things around us instead of how we are showing up. What does your behavior say about you? I was under the impression in the aftermath of my divorce that my behavior still said Tanya was strong because I got up every day and I went. And that was one element. But another part of who I was, I forgot that the way that I loved, because I gave so much of myself, and the love that I gave in that relationship did not get returned. The love that I gave in that moment was not received. The love that I gave, I thought, was too much, and it left me vulnerable. So the last thing I would do again is to put myself in a position where I would be that vulnerable. I want you to know that if you are walking around with what I often call a 10-gallon jug of love, give it out, pour it out. Because here's something else that my belief system had to remember. Before all of the chaos, I have a basic belief in a being greater than myself. And I had to remember to go back to that because the thinking that got you into your mess is not the same thinking that will get you out of it. And there are lots of times we're walking in positions where we are under the impression that this thing that I'm living in now, how I'm functioning now, is all it is. Because you can't currently visualize anything greater. I couldn't visualize the me that I am today when I was struggling in that two-bedroom apartment. But if I tapped into a being greater than myself, it was in that moment that I rediscovered, oh, Tanya, you were exceptional. Before the world knew you were formed in your mother's womb, there was a being that recognized your excellence, and that being said that you are a masterpiece. So who are you to let the world tell you that you are not? So when I finally straightened my crown, got myself together, and remembered, I am a masterpiece. And as a masterpiece, if my frame gets a little tattered and torn, I'm still a masterpiece. As a masterpiece, if the world doesn't fully recognize the cultural element that I sit upon, it does not mean that I am less than. It just means that that person in that moment at that time doesn't recognize it. And if I fail to remember to recognize it in myself, I will allow people, places, and things to circumvent my thoughts, which is exactly what happened to me. But when I changed my thoughts, readjusted my vision, realigned my perspective, I remembered who I am by tapping into a being greater than myself. Those of you that know me know that I have a firm belief in the Trinity. And with the Trinity at the heart and soul of who I am, I had to go back to my basic instruction book before leaving Earth to see, well, what did God say about me? Before anybody knew who I was, what did God say about me? Because that part of who I am still exists. That part of who I am is what will flourish. That part, that part is the piece that I need to allow to let the framework of my belief system function under. So the BS, the BS is not what somebody often thinks. Now, this new belief system, the belief system that I am amazing, whether you see it or not, is how I will function. The belief system that I am excellent is how I will function, whether you believe it or not. This belief system now gave me a new element to revisit my self worth because your values form your self worth. And your self worth is often seen in your behaviors. And if you don't recognize it, you will lose out. And then the world will lose out because you were born into the world to bring your unique gifts, skills, and talents. But if you don't remember it and you don't have a higher thinking of what's going on in your being, you will not tap into it. So when Eric met me, he met me at a moment where I wasn't really functioning. But because his BS was better than mine, he had a thought that, hey, I'm amazing. And I know that I am built to be a quality man for an amazing woman. He trusted in who he was. And because he trusted in who he was, and I recognized that he was on a level of thinking that was now matching and mirroring a little bit more of the level of thinking that I was finding myself in. I tapped into his values because I saw what his values met my values. I tapped into his thoughts because there are moments in your life, in order for you to get out of your position, you may need to meet someone else that has a different perspective on a higher level that can give you another view. He saw a piece of me that I no longer saw. He saw the pieces of me that God had planted there initially. And I had to take the time to get the chance to know Tanya there. And as in that moment, at that time, in that place, I began to find the new version of myself, Tanya 2.0. In Tanya 2.0, I discovered how to have a relationship with someone else. And it begins on what Eric and I talked about this morning, the foundation of friendship. We have this tendency to try to complicate being in relationships with one another. But if you just start off on a friendship basis, we know how to be friends. You know how to be a really good friend because you are that friend that people call when they just need to have a calm in the storm. You're the person that they go to. You're also that friend that people call. You could be the one that, hey, I got to go over here and get something done. You coming? And you are right there because if they need you to have their back, you are that friend. You know how to be the type of friend that if all else fails, I will sit with you and help you figure out how to put things back together again. You know how to be a friend, but you've got to remember that strength inside of you so that you can pull it up when you need it. And we often forget that. So I want to encourage you today. Remember who you are at the core of your being. And if you need a reminder about how two individuals finding themselves in a brand new relationship, go back, listen to this morning's episode, and hear our story. But remember today that you are amazing, that how you were built and brought into the earth is amazing. And when you remember that value that you bring, the BS that you tell yourself, it will be something that will support you moving forward instead of something that will move you backwards. Don't let that be your journey. Share with the world the thing that you have inside of you so that you can operate in excellence and be exceptional with the belief system that you bring to the table. And so for today, if you don't remember anything else I've shared, here's the one thing I want you to know. Watch the BS that you have and let it be the belief systems that support you. Listen to this morning's episode because if you have heard anything that I've shared and it resonates with you, then it's time to reset. So reset with some new thinking and have a better thought to move forward. And if you want someone to join you on the journey, feel free to go to my website, tanyaehood.com. There you can click under the Work For Me tab and see the various ways that we can work with one another. And I look forward to seeing you next time. In the meantime, this is Tanya E. Hood, walking in my purpose, and I want you to do the same.